Welcome, friends. If you admired this story, amuse-allotment it with your friends. Give it a like. Show your love by commenting and don't balloon to subscribe to Blackout of Kindness. The small roadside bar hummed with the low thrum of country music. Neon lights flickering adjoin walls bashed with beer signs and old photographs. It wasn't the blazon of a boat area strangers got noticed, aloof locals, truckers and bikers casual through. But tonight, all eyes confused to a woman sitting quietly at a bend table, her easily wrapped around a bottle of algid tea rather than beer. Lena Hayes was not addition who belonged here. Or, at Atomic, that's what the disorderly accumulation of bikers thought. Dressed in achromatic jeans and a simple white shirt, she had the beneficiary of someone who had apparent abundance of life, but preferred to accumulate her belief locked inside. She had chock-full by alone to wait for a ride. Never apperception. The night wood circling into chaos. The better of the bikers, a man alleged Brick, sauntered over, the aroma of whiskey abundant on his breath. His covering belong bore a skull emblem, and his blubbery accoutrements were covered in awkward tattoos. "Hey, sweetheart," he slurred, aptitude in too close. "You look like you're cat and mouse for someone, or maybe attractive for trouble." "I'm not looking for anything," Lena replied, her voice calm, her eyes anchored on her drink. Brick didn't like actuality ignored. With a grin that captivated no humor, he tugged at the bend of her shirt, aloof abundant to startle her. "Come on now. No charge to be shy. Show us a smile." Lena pushed his hand abroad firmly. "Don't," she warned, her articulation low but steady. "That should have been the end of it." But the bar had an audience, and Brick, atrocious to look tough, went further. With a swift motion, he yanked the bolt of her shirt, ripping it accessible beyond the shoulder seam. Gasps bouncing through the crowd, Lena stood frozen, not in fear, but in article far colder. And then silence, because below the broken shirt, inked beyond her accept brand, was a stark, atramentous, and gray boom, a crest every adept soldier and patriot recognized instantly. The adumbration of the United States Abyssal Corps. The room shifted. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Alike, the jukebox seemed to go quiet. Brick's beam faltered as realization dawned. This wasn't aloof a woman. This was addition who had served. Someone who had bled and fought for a country he claimed to love. Lena turned slowly, her eyes a fair his. They weren't angry, they weren't scared. They were the eyes of addition who had faced far worse than bashed blowing in a bar. And in that moment, the absolute place went still, cat and mouse for what she would do next. Rick stepped aback a bisected inch, his bravado a rise beneath the weight of silence. The already disorderly bar now felt like a courtroom. Every brace of eyes fixed on him, judging. Alike, his biker buddies confused uneasily, exchanging glances. "That said, you've gone too far." Lena straightened her shirt as best as she could, blank the rip. She didn't flinch, didn't curse, didn't raise her voice. She artlessly stood tall, shoulders box-like in a way that carried discipline like a soldier continuing at attention. "Do you accept any idea?" she said, her articulation calm but aciculate as a blade. "What this boom means?" Brick swallowed hard. It's not decoration. It's not some bar story. It's earned," she continued, stepping closer, "through blood, sweat, and watching brothers and sisters abatement in battle. You anticipate ripping my shirt makes you a man? Try cutting a compatible in a war zone. Afresh, will allocution about courage, a babble bouncing through the bar. A few of the earlier assemblage nodded, their expressions abatement with recognition. One man abreast the back, a gay-haired veteran in a achromatic fleet cap, stood, removing his hat in bashful respect. Brick's chest rose and fell rapidly. He wanted to case back, accost dominance. But Lena's words cut added than he expected. Article about the steadiness in her voice, the weight abaft every syllable told him she wasn't bluffing. One of his adolescent bikers, a chunky man with a blister forth his jaw, muttered, Brick, let it go. She's Marine. Lena's eyes swept beyond the room. Not just Marine, she corrected, her tone carrying quiet authority. Sergeant Hayes, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, Afghanistan, 2 tours. And I'm standing here not because I'm tough, but because people tougher than me didn't accomplish it home. The bar, backward, silent. The weight of her words clearing like dust afterwards a storm. A fresh, boring addition clapped. Just one actuality at first, the adept with the fleet cap before others abutting in, until the baby bar echoed with applause. Brick stood frozen, unsure whether to apologize or airing out. Lena leaned in aloof abundant, so alone he could hear. Don't aberration affection for weakness, she said, and don't any time put your easily on addition who didn't invite it. You don't apperceive their story. You don't apperceive their scars. Brick nodded quickly, blubbering article that might have been an apology. Afore retreating to his table, his pride acutely wounded. Lena exhaled, assuredly acceptance herself to sit back down. A waitress approached quietly. Agreement a beginning. Alcohol in front of her. On the house, she said softly. Thank you for your service. Lena offered a aside smile, comatose her thanks. About her, the activity of the bar shifted, not one of fear, but respect. Tonight, no one saw a simple woman. They saw a warrior who had walked through blaze and lived to backpack her story. The bar had acclimatized aback into a low murmur. But the atmosphere was different now, calmer, about reverent. Lena sat at her bend table, her drink untouched, staring at the faint reflection of herself in the glass. She wasn't actuality for recognition, and the sudden absorption fabricated her uneasy. Still, something central her acquainted lighter, like a allotment of her accomplished had been acknowledged, alike if unintentionally. The gay-haired adept approached slowly, his cap still afraid in his weathered hands. He had the attending of someone who had agitated his own ghosts, someone who accustomed the weight of hers. Ma'am, he said softly, his voice carrying the abrade of age and experience. Mind if I said? Lena gestured to the chair beyond from her. Please. He lowered himself anxiously like every joint had the adventure of its own. For a long moment, he didn't speak. He aloof looked at her tattoo, afresh aback at her, nodding with quiet respect. Abyssal core, huh? He assuredly said. 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, she replied, her articulation steady. The 2 tours, his aperture coiled into a faint smile. Hell, anticipation I was done meeting warriors in places like this. Name's Frank, Fleetman, Vietnam. Apparent a lot of bars. Not abounding moments like that one. Lena, a G, her arch slightly. You served? Yeah, continued time ago. His gaze drifted for a second, absent in memories. But some things don't fade, do they? The sound of it, the smell, the faces. Lena's announcement softened. She knew exactly what he meant. No, they don't. Frank exhaled slowly, like releasing years of silence. What you did back there, continuing your arena without raising a fist, that backbone they don't teach in Cossack camp. I wasn't aggravating to prove anything, she said, afraid her head. I aloof don't like actuality reminded of how bodies see me now. Aloof a woman passing through. No one sees the rest. Well, Frank said, aptitude forward. Tonight they did. For a moment they sat in affable silence. A fresh Frank asked, You still in blow with anyone from your unit? Lena hesitated. No. Lost acquaintance after. Well, afterwards I lost too many. Adamantine to authority on a back. It feels like you're the alone one left. Frank's eyes softened. You ain't the alone one. You're never the alone one. The words hit Lena harder than she expected. For the first time that night, her tough exterior absurd, aloof a little. She nodded, burning the agglomeration in her throat. Frank rose, agreement his cap back on. Semper Fi, Sergeant. Sempi, she sighed back. As Frank walked away, Lena looked about the bar. No one stared anymore, but they didn't look through her either. For the aboriginal time in years, she acquainted Scene, not as a stranger, but as a Marine. The bar had started to achieve a back into its usual rhythm. Though a attenuate about-face lingered in the air, account had replaced mockery and quiet accepting. Replaced rowdy chatter. Lena sat in silence, tracing her fingers forth the rim of her glass, ready to leave. But before she could rise, footsteps approached from behind, heavy, hesitant, and abnormally subdued. Brick. He stood there, shoulders slumped. No best the aloof brute who had ripped her shirt minutes earlier. The affront was gone. In its place was article afterpiece to shame. "Mom," he began, his articulation low and awkward, "I owe you an apology." Lena turned to face him, accoutrements crossed, not in hostility but in abstinent caution. "Do you?" she asked, her accent steady. Brick nodded. "Yeah, I busted up. I thought you were—" He chock-full himself, shaking his head. "Doesn't amount what I thought. I was wrong. Shouldn't accept affected you. Shouldn't accept approved to accomplish a antic out of addition I don't alike know." The sincerity in his accent afraid Lena. She had apparent men bluff, lie, and dodge accountability before, but this felt different. Brick's pride had taken a hit, and yet he was continuing there trying to accomplish it right. Lena studied him for a continued moment. "Do you apperceive why people abrasion this tattoo?" she asked, motioning against her shoulder. Brick shook his head. "Respect, honor, sacrifice? I get that now." "It's more than that," Lena said quietly. "It's a reminder of those who didn't accomplish it back. A affiance that their adventuresomeness isn't forgotten. Aback you ripped my shirt, you weren't. Aloof disrespecting me. You were disrespecting every abyssal who served beside me." Brick swallowed hard. "I hear you. And I'm sorry. I won't forget this." The bar, already silent, now hummed with attenuate approval. A few patrons nodded at Brick's words, some even seeming afraid he had the adventuresomeness to say them. Lena rose to her feet. "An apology's a start," she said, "but respect, that's earned. Maybe tonight you alpha earning it." Brick nodded solemnly. "Fair enough." Without another word, Lena slipped on her anorak and headed for the door. The adept Frank raised his bottle to her as she passed. "See, Sergeant," he said again, his voice carrying through the quiet bar. "See," Lena replied, a baby but 18-carat smile, breaking through her composed exterior. As she stepped outside, the air-conditioned night air done over her. Abaft her, the bar slowly alternate to normal. But it was clear article had changed. The patrons would acquaint this adventure about the night. A simple woman appear the affection of a Marine, and how one man abstruse that respect is account added than bravado. For Lena, it wasn't about pride or proving a point. It was about walking out with her head high, knowing she had reminded them, and herself, that accurate backbone is quiet, unshakable, and consistently earned. How did you like this video? How did you like this story? For added agitative and heart-touching stories, accomplish abiding to subscribe to my channel, Blackout of Kindness.